Greetings, I'm Dr. David Childs, Social Studies and History Professor and Director of the Black Studies Program here at Northern Kentucky University. My home college is the College of Education. Welcome. Thank you for all those that supported and underwrote this wonderful event. It was organized and sponsored by the Black and Brown Educators of Excellence and the Black Studies Program. Our other sponsors include the College of Education, the Black Faculty and Staff Association, African American Student Initiatives, and others. Two quotes come to mind as we start this event that can help us ground this conversation. James Baldwin stated, quote, "If you know whence you came, there's really no limit to where you go." And Dick Gregory states, quote, "A man without knowledge of himself and his heritage is like a tree without roots." In other words, when we do not know our history, the history of our country, we are limited. And conversely, when we know our history, we are empowered. So when we don't know our history, we are limited. And when we know our history, we are empowered beyond measure. U.S. history is complex. We forget or fail to realize that black history is American history. So when African American history is buried or hidden or omitted, we are burying all of our history. And as Nietzsche pointed out, we're destined to repeat it. Thus, we must undo the mistakes that were made in social studies classrooms and history classrooms all across the U.S. We were taught that the only American history worth studying and the most important history was history from only a Eurocentric perspective. There's nothing wrong with studying history from a Eurocentric perspective. Abraham Lincoln, Washington, George Washington, et cetera, and so forth. But the crime is when we omit other histories. In fact, it's intellectually dishonest. We learned that only the studying of the Founding Fathers, white history, was to be valued, and other histories, Native American history, women's history, African American history, et cetera, was not, et cetera, and so forth, was not as important. So largely, the racial tension in this country is rooted in the way history has been taught. We must reclaim that history, uncover that history, rediscover that history. We are fortunate today that Karen Parsons is here to help us do that. You know her, of course, from Fresh Prince of Bel-Air and her success on the show as Hillary Banks. But what I most appreciate is her contribution to the scholarly world. That's why she's at a first-class institution. Let's hear it for Northern Kentucky University right now. Come on, give us some love. Her coming is a testament to our growth and our commitment to history, our commitment to academic excellence, and our commitment to scholarship. We're so fortunate that she came in person to help us think about education, African American history, black literature, black theater, black excellence, perhaps what it means to be human, what it means to be multifaceted, what it means to shine. We're not putting forth black exceptionalism. We're not putting forth ethnocentrism, but we're here to reclaim history that was lost and to work towards a multicultural project, a project of unity. We're here to reclaim what it means to be excellent. We're grateful today to ponder the intersection of education, race, history, and justice. I have some in-class work for everyone here. I have an assignment, an in-class assignment. I encourage you to listen for ideas that you hear today, quotes, images, and thoughts that stand out to you, and post them so that it can go beyond this conversation, beyond this room. There are people online, by the way. There are a number of people that joined us live streamed as well. And I want you to share this knowledge with your friends. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, or any other platforms. You can use the hashtag BB of V. That stands for Black and Brown Educators of Excellence. Hashtag BB of V, hashtag NKU College of Education, or hashtag Dr. David Childs. Let us watch, listen, learn, enjoy, grow, and as the song so eloquently states, march on till victory is won. And I want to leave one thought with you. My grandmother, Mother Rosa Childs, grew up working on a plantation as a sharecropper in Georgia. And she worked much of her life picking cotton. And when she came to the U.S. in her middle age, she went back to school. She did not have a high school diploma. She went back to school at 60-something years old and had a high school diploma. It's people like her that are part of this history. And we build on and we stand on the shoulders of giants. So let us put our hands together as we get ready to listen, learn, and enjoy. Thank you. I want to introduce our Misters of Ceremony. And I'm going to just introduce you, Briaka. Briaka Green is the president of the Black and Brown Educators of Excellence. The Black and Brown Educators of Excellence was founded some years ago by Brandy Mulligan and Erica Watson. They thought that they wanted to form a student group that celebrated African Americans, that celebrated excellence, that celebrated education. And Briaka has assumed the presidency in recent past, and she's going to come up and be our Mistress of Ceremony. Let's receive her by a hand clap. Thank you.
Okay. Oh, it is on. Okay. Hello. Good evening, everyone. As Dr. Childs has stated, I am Briaka Green. I am a senior middle grades education major here at Northern Kentucky. Some of the organizations I'm involved in, I'm the president of Black and Brown Educators of Excellence. I am an NKU Rocks lead mentor, vice president of Anointed Voices Gospel Choir, and many other organizations here. So, kind of do a lot, but that's just a short, brief introduction of me. And yeah, I'm kind of excited for tonight. Is anyone excited? So enough about me. First, I would like to introduce the interim president, President Benita Brown, to come up and say a few words.
Good evening, everyone. So good to see you all here. It's so great to see everyone here on the evening for this very important topic. My name is Benita Brown. I am the interim president here at NKU. Northern Kentucky University is proud to celebrate Black History Month. Our university is dedicated to fostering a community of belonging, embracing equity, diversity, and inclusiveness. But we're not perfect, as I'm sure some of the students will tell you. We have a ways to go, but I think we know that, and I think we're working towards it, and events like this help us move it forward. So, you know, as I was talking to some of the students after I was appointed, it was not lost on them the significance of my appointment. I am the first female president here at NKU. And also the first African-American president at NKU. But I didn't get here on my own. I stand on the shoulders of great African-American historical figures here at NKU. There was a first Board of Regents member, there was a first African-American student, there was a first African-American faculty and staff, first African-American student, and now the first African American president. So again, we are growing in history. History is happening right now today. So one thing I tell the students, yes, we're studying the past, but history is being made now, and you all will make history in the future. So we are so proud to have everyone. I'd like to welcome our special guest of the evening, Karen Parsons. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Again, we all know you from the Fresh Prince, but I'm older than a lot of you all, so I know her from a lot of other movies that I won't name, but it's so good to see you here tonight. I look forward to hearing her sharing her story and the importance of African American education with us. Once again, thank you all for having me here, and thank you for being here with us tonight. I hope you enjoyed the program. Thank you.
Thank you for those remarks. So now we'll have the dean of my college, Dr. Jenny Fair.
Thank you so much. What an exciting evening. And I'd like to extend a huge thank you to Dr. Childs for his work and his vision, and to Briaka for her work and her vision as well. What an honor it is for us to be here with Karen tonight. But certainly we are grateful for those of you who have done the behind-the-scenes work. So many have worked to be ready for tonight and to prepare this event. So a huge thank you to all, but especially to Briaka and to David. So I have said, I talked to David whenever he first mentioned Karen coming, and I said, you know, Karen and I are old friends. She doesn't know that, but but we're really old friends. About 16 years ago, almost exactly 16 years ago, my twins were born. And so I remember with my twins being born, not sleeping, and having their little 4-pound little bodies. I'd sit cross-legged on my bed, and I'd prop one little body in one crook of my knee and one little body in the other crook of the knee, and I'd take my bottles and I'd do this, and I'd watch Fresh Prince of Bel-Air on Nick at Night, literally for hours. And in the meantime, I'd burp a baby, and I'd cry a little bit when they cried, and then I'd laugh again for watching Fresh Prince. So, you know, Karen, I know you a lot better than you know me. But it's very exciting to have you here. And I will also say, though, because not that we want to typecast Karen as being Hillary, but Hillary was social-minded, and she really was a social-minded character, and she grew more into that role as the episodes continued. And I will say, as Dr. Childs was talking about the intellectual gaps that we have in not studying all of history, I'll have to say I'm a product of that. And I remember when I first started teaching, and I taught in a community in an inner city school, and I remember my education, even my teacher prep program, all of the data that I was given, all of the examples that I was given, always cast Black and brown students as having deficits. And I entered my first teaching assignment thinking that my Black and brown students had deficits. And you know what? All of my students in some ways had deficits, but the deficits that I expected from the Black and brown community were not what I experienced at all. And I realized rather quickly that I was not prepared to teach my Black and brown students the way that I needed to. And so as someone who recognized her ignorance and recognized her gaps, something that I turned to quite immediately was narrative, was story, was literature. And so how lovely, Karen, that is one avenue that you are using as well to share your voice and to help those of us who have been ignorant to reconcile those gaps. So I stand before you with that confession, but also with great excitement that Northern Kentucky University is part of helping fill that gap by recognizing Black history and by celebrating the many contributions that have been made and that continue to be made in this space. So Karen, welcome, and again, thank you to all of you who are here.
Thank you for those remarks. You know I love you. So now I would like to introduce the Director of African American Student Initiative, as he was also one of the sponsors of tonight's event, which is great. But I want to introduce Mr. Greg Moore.
So I want to correct that. I did not sponsor, but the Office of African American Student Initiatives did. I'm extremely happy to be here and to have you all here, not only as a staff member, but alumnus of NKU. It has been an amazing month just to have all these amazing Black History Month events where we can expose our audience to different elements of what Blackness is. And I'm extremely proud of that. So let's give that a hand real fast. Give that a hand. Additionally, we have been going all month, and I'm extremely excited for this, excited for you to be here as an extreme fan, but I also hold my composure because I'm actually a professional. But with that being said, I just want to say again, thank you. We have one more event tomorrow. I'll just share that now. But if you can continue supporting our office, always know that it's important to know that Black history doesn't just stop at 28 days. Let me say that again. Black history doesn't just stop at 28 days. We are here. We've contributed. There's enormous amounts of history that we've played an integral role as well as intricate roles in history as well as NKU. And for that, again, I say thank you. Again, welcome. And I look forward to an amazing event. Thanks.
Thank you for those remarks. Now I would like to introduce Vice Mayor Jan Mitchell Kearney to speak about some things going on.
Brianka, thank you so much. Hey everybody, hi Northern Kentucky University, woo! So I'm Vice Mayor for the City of Cincinnati, and I came to bring you greetings from Cincinnati. Ms. Parsons was over at one of our high schools today, I understand, SCPA. Oh, it's tomorrow, okay. So they're gonna be thrilled. So I'm really excited. Thank you for going across the river as well. So I'm bringing greetings from our mayor, Mayor Aftab Purival, who really wishes he could be here. Let me say, Dr. Childs, thank you for inviting me. Last year, Dr. Childs invited me here for an education panel. And this is why Black history is so important. You have to understand that there are people who are trying to stop us from knowing our history. They're trying to stop us from teaching our history to our children. There are laws in place. And so there were teachers on that panel who were saying how discouraged they were feeling because they wanted to teach the facts. They wanted to talk about history because history is empowering, and they felt stopped from doing that. And a lot of them were saying, we're thinking about changing professions. I mean, it was a really emotional panel. A lot of people just feeling discouraged because they were not allowed to teach Black history. I appreciate what the dean was saying about not hearing about Black history and then teaching students and realizing, I haven't learned everything. I mean, they've kept this information from me. And that's why I'm really so excited about Karen Parsons. She has a company, Sweet Blackberry, and the mission is to teach Black history. And so she, I was reading about her DVD and books about Garrett Morgan and about Henry Box Brown. You remember he mailed himself to freedom. Garrett Morgan in 1923 saw a car and a buggy collide, and so he said, I have to invent a stoplight. So he invented the stoplight. You hear about Janet Collins, one of the first renowned African-American dancers. And so there's so much in our history. It's hard for us to know what we can do unless we know where we've been and what people have accomplished before us and whose shoulders we're standing on. This is important for us. It's important for our children. And so, Ms. Parsons, thank you so much for the work you're doing. I'm really excited about her. I can tell you just real quickly before I sit down, one of our council members, Scotty Johnson, heard I was coming here, and he said, oh, I saw her on some panel, and she was calling people out, and he said she's really fierce. She talks about equity, and she's not afraid to talk about racism and discrimination and prejudice, and she didn't mince her words. I said, wow, that's really exciting. I can't wait to hear her. And so everybody in Cincinnati was really excited that you're here. I know you're going to do a great job tomorrow with our students and tonight. So thank you so much for being here. Welcome to the greater Cincinnati area in northern Kentucky. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody.
So thank you for that. It's always nice to hear about the things that a lot of people kind of breeze over with, like Black history, African American history. So thank you for saying those things. So now I just wanted to call Dr. David Childs up for some slight remarks.
I'm not going to give no more remarks. I got up to introduce the speaker. Okay. So I did want to thank everybody. This is a great turnout to be talking about education. People that are smart, that want to come and think about education and think about Black history and the importance of it. This is really cool right here. This is what needs to happen. And Karen Parsons has that gift of being able to bring people together. And she's not gathering people together to elevate her status or collect funds like you might see some celebrities do. But she gathers people together to talk about Black history, to talk about education. And that's why she came down. She was in my classroom earlier, and we had an amazing conversation. We've been reading her book in class, and so she has reinvented herself. And so we're here to introduce her. She's best known as the character Hillary Banks on the long-running television show, The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. About the time that I was in high school, when my high school teacher is here, stand up, Miss Stout, my art teacher. My art teacher here. She thought I forgot. About that time, I was watching Fresh Prince. Today, Ms. Parsons is the founder of Sweet Blackberry, an award-winning series of children's animated films and books sharing stories of unsung heroes in history. The films feature narration from such notable talents as Alfre Woodard, Queen Latifah, Chris Rock, and Lawrence Fishburne. They have been screened on HBO and Netflix, her animated features, and are enjoyed by schools and libraries across the nation. Karen has also authored the Sweet Blackberry picture books, Flying Free, How Bessie Coleman's Dream Took Flight, and Saving the Day, which tells the story of how Garrett Morgan invented the traffic signal. Karen's debut novel, How High the Moon, was released in March 2019. Her latest novel, she's got one coming out, Clouds Over California. Everybody want to get it? Go cop that. Get that. Support Black excellence. It will hit the bookshelves July 2023. At this time, I want you to stand to your feet and put your hands together as Karen Parsons takes the stage.
You're crazy. Hey. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Now sit down. Sit down. Crazy.
So what's going to happen is we're going to have a conversation for a little while, her and I, and then we're going to open it up to the audience. She's a very humble person. She said, I don't want to come and give a speech. I want to have a dialogue. And so I said, I'll be happy to have a conversation with you. So let's get to it. Everybody, y'all ain't come to see me. So let me quit talking. Can you begin talking about how you got into acting?
How I got into acting? Yeah, I grew up in Southern California. So I grew up in Santa Monica, actually, and Hollywood was right in my backyard. I wasn't, as a kid, so aware of it, but it would end up, being something that I kind of naturally ended up getting into for acting, instead of just like theater as much as I probably would have if I were elsewhere. But since I was about 6 years old, I was that kid who was talking about how I was going to be an actor. I was just hell-bent on acting. We had, how many of you are familiar with the bookmobiles? Oh, good. See, now a lot of people know the bookmobiles
it's
here.
It's an older crowd.
Okay, well, I was asking earlier, and nobody knew what I was talking about. But we had the bookmobiles, and I remember I got a little book called, for those of you who don't know what it is, your mom will give you some money, and you go and you get, there's like a portable, like a moving library. It was like a van or something. Mobile library with all kinds of books. And I went and I picked a little book called Small Plays for You and a Friend. Little tiny book, thin, and they were plays for two kids to do with little household props, like a rolling pin and a ruler, like stuff like that, just around the house. Really easy, quick little skits. And I was an only child, and my mother was very patient, and she let me act out both parts for her of all of those little plays. And I just loved it. I just thought it was the most fun thing ever. And so there was that, and there were these books at the library. My mom was a librarian. I spent a lot of time in the library. And there were these books called plays, and they had about 3 plays in them. And I would sit there and I would read all the stage directions and the descriptions of the characters. And I just found it really fascinating. And I loved the idea of inhabiting a different character and how they entered and everything that happened. And so between all of this stuff, I started, and I started watching kids on television and in films. And I decided I wanted so badly to be an actor. I had to see everything Jodie Foster was in. You guys know who Jodie Foster is? Okay.
Some of us.
Some people know who she is. Okay, she was a kid actor, and so I wanted to, she was doing what I wanted to do. So I had to see everything that she was in, and I really wanted to, at a very early age, act. As I got a little bit older, I started trying to get involved with the local theaters however I could. Like I designed the cover of a playbill at the Santa Monica Playhouse. They chose my design. My friend and I sewed costumes and helped with the backdrops and the stage for building the stages, the sets for a different theater house in Santa Monica. And when I got a little older, I found workshops. I found a workshop that was actually an adult workshop. I think it was an over 18 thing, and we were younger, but the teacher said, I'll let you into the class if you're serious, if you guys are really serious and committed. And we said we would be, and this is a class with, very serious, like improvisation and people throwing things across the room. I saw a girl throw a cup across the room at some guy's head, and it was just very dramatic and very emotional, and I wanted to be there in the middle of it. And so I started to get more serious. And in this class, I think it was in that workshop, I started reading like Uta Hagen and Stanislavski and learning about craft. And it wasn't just plays and stuff anymore. It was a lot deeper, a lot more serious. And so I found myself really loving it. And I was very fortunate one day in that workshop, my coach had a friend who was an agent, theatrical agent, who came and sat in on a class. And I was doing a scene from Sybil. Mm-hmm. You know, Sybil. Right? 16 personalities. And it was kind of think of it now, I'm like, that's a pretty ambitious scene to do. But I did it, and it happened to go well that night, the night that this agent was in the audience. So it was great. It was very, wild, dramatic, running out of the building kind of thing. But he was interested in representing me, and it took a while before I actually did it. But he ended up being my agent, and he was my agent when I got the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, actually.
Awesome. Yeah. Speaking of Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, I know there's some, let's give some acknowledgement for our online listeners. Come on, let's give them some love. Put your hands together. Where's the camera? I don't know where the camera at. We got some, yeah. Why was I looking back there? That wouldn't make no sense.
Nope.
I was going right there. Well, we got some live stream, modern technology, and I'm sure the listeners would like to know how you developed the character Hillary
Hillary.
Banks.
Well, it writers. I mean, it starts with that, right? When I first auditioned for the role of Hillary, I mean, it was pretty thin writing, to be honest, in what I had. I mean, you didn't have a full script. You just had the sides, just with the scenes that you were going to do. And the oldest sister was described as a model type. And I wasn't a model type, and so I'm looking at it, trying to figure this out. There wasn't very much. There wasn't a lot of interaction. So at first, it was kind of hard to find a way in, but I had to find a way in that worked for me. So, I mean, part of what worked was being a model in my own mind. Worked, and the whole kind of, affectation, the whole, like, Hillary thing was a very annoying little thing. I had sprung this on a friend of mine before once. A friend of mine and I were out, I think we were out for drinks or something, and I was very annoying. I just kept doing it, doing this kind of affectation thing. So we flash forward to auditioning for this part, and it just kind of, well, the first time I started to do that with the lines, it just kind of fell into place, and it seemed a little silly, but it worked, and that's kind of the answer to it, right? Is that it actually worked. It was difficult auditioning for it initially because I hadn't done much of anything. So I had to audition for the casting director's assistant, just for starters. Casting director didn't even want to see me because she's like, who is she? So she didn't even show up. So it was just the casting director's assistant who put me on tape, and that tape went to the casting director who narrowed down who was going to be there. And then I met with her, and then I think I met with the writers, the head writers, I think. And then the next callback was with Quincy Jones. And then the next call back was with the studio, and then the next...
Name dropping.
Yes, I am. Yes, I am. And that was really, really cool, too. And then the next audition was for the network. Yeah. And that's just the really crazy one where it's just you and one other Hillary and 2 Carltons and 2 Uncle Phils.
So you're giving us a glimpse into many of us that had the privilege of growing up watching Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. You're giving us a glimpse into the behind the scenes of what was going on all those years, those 6 years, when the show was airing. And then you had the reruns too, which was this whole thing. I'm interested in the fact that you work with such amazing characters. Yeah. Alfonso, Will Smith, Tatiana Ali. My favorite character, one of my favorite characters, was James Avery.
Yes.
James Avery reminded me of my father. Shout out to my father, the late Pastor Childs. He was an amazing man. He reminded me of Uncle Phil.
Really?
He was overbearing. He was sure about himself. He was hardworking, just a stalwart, a lion. And talk about what it was like to work with James Avery. Then he was hilarious.
Yeah, James was the best. James was, I don't know how many people know this, but James was nothing like Uncle Phil. I mean, he was in his heart, and all that he gave Uncle Phil, that was James. But otherwise, James Avery was a hippie. I know, sorry to bust that bubble. James Avery was, baggy pants and Birkenstocks and big baggy t-shirt every day. That was James, blasting his jazz music, his door wide open, blasting his music. I mean, drowning out everybody, and did not care. The biggest heart would share so much Black history. This man. He wanted to narrate one of the Sweet Blackberry stories. No, that never happened. But I mean, and he would see things in you that you didn't see in yourself, and appreciate things about you. He wanted me so badly to play Lady Macbeth. Saw things in me I didn't see in myself. No, but he really did. Like I can think of other people, like Tatiana, who played Ashley, and things that he would say, oh, I want to see you do this so bad. I want you to, and he really loved the theater. He wanted me to do theater desperately because he was like, you would love it so much, and I had done so little of that. But he was wonderful to do scenes with. He didn't call me Karen, he called me daughter. And that was way after the show went off. That's how he addressed me. We were neighbors in LA later. In Silver Lake, California, we were neighbors. We'd see each other at the supermarket in the morning all the time because we shopped at the same time. Yeah. Which would kind of freak out the people in the store. Because I remember a guy once was like jumping up and down going, oh my God, I just saw your dad in produce. It was really sweet. But yeah, he was a really good friend. And after the show, we were friends. We saw each other. We spent a lot of time together. We hung out a lot. He actually had picked out the house that we bought in LA. Straight, he was like, I have a house for you guys. And then later we bought a house. And when he came by to see me, he said, this is the house I wanted you to buy when we moved out there. He was just a very generous actor and human being. And I think a lot of him, I'm really happy to say, I think a lot of him is in me. You know, that I didn't realize at the time. But I was so lucky to have him so close in my life the way I did.
That's so amazing. I want to transition. I want to take it a little bit deeper. Black History Month is so special, but every day should be Black History Month. Every month should be. But it's so special because it allows us to pause and to think about American history, that aspect of American history, and the underbelly of American history that nobody wants to talk about. Yeah. From 1619, even before 1619, there was people of African descent that were in North America. One aspect of Black history, when you talk about Black studies, there are different divisions of Black studies. There's Black studies in education, history, Black studies in religion, literature, and then there's theater. And you folks had an opportunity to live out some history, the history of Black theater. Most people don't realize Black theater goes back to 1917. There were independent Black films. You can find them on YouTube now that told all kinds of Black stories. And so you folks stand in that tradition. And so we're proud to have you here to have this conversation with us. And everybody on that show had depth. Everybody on that show. And so I'm not surprised that you're a writer. You were always writing. So talk about that transition to being an author. Yeah. Tell us about that. Share with us that whole.
Well, I think it surprises a lot of people when they find out that I'm writing now. And then there are people like you who aren't as surprised because they say, oh, you were always telling stories. And it's true. I was always interested in storytelling, but I was also very interested in character and in people. And all of our nuance and complexity is very interesting to me and moves me. It moves me to do what I do. I think it really is what moves me to act. I know it's what drives me when I write. That is the thing I think means the most in the process for me is exploring characters. The transition, when the show went off the air, I had a friend who was pushing me to go to a writing class by a particular instructor. And I don't know why, but she just kept saying, I really want you to go. And then she kept calling me, and are you going to go? Are you going to? And I said, yeah, I'll go. So I signed up, and I went to the class, and I fell absolutely in love with it. Later, other friends would say, they weren't surprised at all. Close friends that knew me growing up would say, you were always writing, which I don't remember, but that's what they told me. Anyway, but I can think of things that I was writing, but I didn't take it. I had identified myself as an actor since I was 6, and then relatively early in my life, I had success as an actor. So everyone else was calling me an actor. I was an actor. It was very hard for me to give myself the room to be anything else. But after the show went off and I took this course and fell in love with writing, I befriended somebody during that time, a journalist, He did a story on me, Karen Parsons, the actor. But when he met me, he saw me, we became friends, and he saw me writing every day all the time. And so that's how he came to know me, as this, person that was writing all day. So we met many years later. We kept in contact. We were friends. He saw the work that I was doing with my organization, Sweet Blackberry, which I was producing these films, short animated films. I was writing the text that the narrators would do. I was doing all the writing, but I still wasn't thinking of myself as a writer. But my friend Mark, I bumped into him at a party, and he said, it turned out he was a literary agent. I was like, wow, that's amazing. That's, it's so great. And he had been in publishing along the way from the time I knew him as a journalist. And now he was a literary agent. And we got together to catch up because we hadn't seen each other in a while. And he said, I think it's time you write a novel. And I was like, I thought we were just going to go hang out. So he's like, no, he had kept up with what I was doing with Sweet Blackberry. And he had known me, like I said, originally he had known me as a writer. He was like, I think you need to write a novel. Now, mind you, when I was writing all day in my house, I was writing short story fiction. I wasn't thinking about writing for children then. I wasn't thinking about writing a novel then. So I didn't say no. I pitched him 2 ideas, and one of them he really liked. And I got to the challenge because the encouragement meant everything to me, that this person saw me as a writer. I was really, believe me, I had been an actor my whole life, which I know people look at as fluff. Regardless of how much we work or how much I know how a lot of people look at acting. I also had played Hillary Banks. The last thing I thought anybody would take seriously was me saying, I'm a writer. So I didn't say it. And so here I am with this guy saying, I think you should write a novel. So I tried to sit down and actually do it. And the great thing is with the first book is nobody was over my shoulder, except for him every few months and going, how's it going? How's that book going? That was about it. And at some point, he looked at a draft and said, I think it's ready to go out. And they sent it out to publishers, and there was a bidding war. It was kind of amazing. It was really well received, kind of blew my mind. I had a lot to do once the editors got a hold of it. They had their notes, of course. But that became my book, How High the Moon, which was really just kind of a game changer for me, especially because once it came out, a lot of people who had no idea I was a writer, that I was writing, were all like, what? What is this? And now the cat was out of the bag.
And you write about, your novel is about civil rights. She writes about African-American history. She educates youth in terms of African-American history and little-known characters. So I was thinking about Black history and what Vice Mayor Jan-Michelle Kearney mentioned. There is an attack on Black history. There's legislation that's trying to be passed to prevent the teaching of diversity, to prevent the teaching of African-American history. Why is it so important that we teach this history, that you teach history? Why is it so important? Why did you pick up that mantle? What do you think?
Well, I don't know that I picked it up that deliberately. I think the things that happen, there are so many things. I was writing a story. My mother grew up in the Jim Crow South. She grew up in a little town in South Carolina outside of Charleston in the 1940s, and she always talked about how happy her childhood was. And so I just accepted that for a long time. And then at some point, I thought, well, wait a minute, you gotta tell me more. There's gotta be more to the story than that. You grew up in the segregated South, and was it difficult? Was it hard? Or the stories you're not telling me, how was it such a happy childhood? And so I was kind of writing to find out, and I was talking to her as well. And in writing that story, of course, the things that are happening in the world were affecting me as well. And they start to show up in the work. You're just reading about so many young men and boys dying at the hands of police officers. These things were just such a regular occurrence during the time that I was writing. And when my mom was growing up in South Carolina, there was also a little boy named George Stinney Jr. who was living in a little town outside of Charleston too. And my mom didn't know anything about him, but I did. I did now because of Sweet Blackberry, because of my work with Sweet Blackberry and little known people in Black history. Because of that work, George Stinney's picture would often come up. But his story was not empowering or inspiring, because George's legacy, what should we say, was to be the youngest person ever executed in the United States at 14 years old. He was accused of killing 2 little white girls, which this was all later thrown out, and the whole trial was thrown out and found to be a sham. But this was after George had already been executed at 14. And this is all because when the girls went missing, there was a search for them, and George was part of the search. He mentioned to somebody that he had seen them earlier, and they had asked him about a certain kind of flower, if he knew they were around. And he shared that with someone. So when the girls showed up dead, everyone pointed to George. And they wanted to quickly have somebody who was guilty and be done with it. And so there was a coerced confession. It was horrible. And I would see his story often, in looking at his face would come up often. And I'd tell people about him, and nobody knew who he was, which was a horrible shame to me. But like I said, he wasn't the Sweet Blackberry story. But then I was writing How High the Moon. I was affected by what was going on in the world. And he grew up around the same time my mom did, in the same area. So it made sense that he would come into this story, and I would have an opportunity to kind of try to bring him and his story and the relevance of this story to people. And I think it helps us understand, and knowing this history helps us, like you said, the tragedies of it. It helps us to not repeat some of these things. But most importantly, I think a lot of it's like what you said also. What was the term you used? Intellectually dishonest, I think you said. And I think that's what really hit me. Because I think that's the thing more than anything here, is what about the truth?
Right. Yes.
What about us just knowing the truth? You know, we've accepted the term. I still accept the term, and I will say it, and I have no problem saying it, Black history. But I do think it's important we all get used to saying American history when we talk about these people and these stories. This is American history. This is all of our history. This is all for all of us to learn from. It's helped develop and form all of us. These contributions have served all of us. So this kind of relegating these accomplishments to the side or to a month as like, we're not going to talk about it too much. Why? Why are we doing that? I understand spotlighting, but not relegating it and then let's forget about it and move on. We gave it its attention, let's move on. It's not just Black people's, it's everybody's. That's really, 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 to me, I just think that's just honesty. Yeah. You know, and that's something I think we all have to gain by that.
Beautiful. How important is it? We're talking about African American history. We're talking about American history. We're talking about education. And I want to really piggyback on what Dean Fair was talking about in terms of learning the total history. But also people that are diverse in this field of education. You could say this about many fields, but particularly as teachers. Why is it important that we have diverse teachers, that we have diverse educators in the classroom, in the elementary school, to have Black teachers in there? Why is that so?
Rural representation means everything. And it's yes, for little Black and brown kids to see themselves means everything. We all know that, right? I hope we all know that. But do we know how important it is for little white kids to see Black teachers too? You know what I mean?
Good stuff. Duh.
Yeah.
I want you to do it, though.
No, but I do, but I'm glad everybody gets that. I mean, I think I think we all can understand why that's important.
Yeah, that's huge. What would you say? Oh, I got another big question that I like this question. Y'all might not like it. I'm inspired by authors like Richard Wright,
Yeah.
Zora Neale Hurston, James Cone, W.E.B. Du Bois, Alice Walker, Virginia Hamilton, Mildred Taylor, Karen Parsons. Because I read her books. What authors inspired you? What authors inspire you and get you excited about writing? What are some authors that you can think about?
You know, it's funny. I went to a writing conference many moons ago. When I was in that class with that teacher, actually, I went to something, and the writer. I remember I loved Jamaica Kincaid. Has anybody read Jamaica Kincaid? A lot of people. Okay, good. I loved, at the time I was crazy about Jamaica Kincaid, and I saw Richard Ford there, the writer Richard Ford. Anybody familiar with Richard Ford? He's a Pulitzer Prize winning. He was like the rock star of the event when I went. Everybody was like, oh, Richard Ford's here. And I had the nerve to ask him to look at something of mine. and he did. And so when he was talking to me, and I remember he said something about, he was asking me about, I was telling him about Jamaica Kincaid, and he was friends with Jamaica Kincaid. And so he was saying, are you inspired because you enjoy reading her, or are you inspired to write like her? And it started making me look at everything that I read differently. Because I'm deeply moved by Toni Morrison. It took me a minute, though. I'll tell you, the first time I dove in, the first book I tried to read of hers was Beloved. Not a good idea. 2 times I tried to read it. I was like, what am I reading? Yeah. And so then years later, I went and I started with The Bluest Eye, which I think is still my favorite book. I think. I love that book. But then now, and so now I'm just, I love her, but I do not in any way, shape, or form think I would ever in a million years be able to write like her, or I don't feel that for me, but I am inspired by her truth, the richness of her writing, the depth, the emotion in her writing, and it's just the reveal. I mean, I think she reveals so much about people and relationships, and she dives into flaws, and I love that. I love that. And I love that, I have to say, I love that for Black people.
Yeah.
I love that she dives into flaws, because one thing that I think is difficult is sometimes we become too, because of our history, because of so much stuff, so much damage, and so many damaging stereotypes and everything, we push for the hero, I think, role, and we forget about the humanity, and how flawed we are, and how beautiful we are in our flaws, and how we appreciate each other, and we love each other, and we try, and we fail, and we get up, and we go again, and I think her books and her stories and her characters are wonderful for that. It's so complex. Yeah. But I think that's good for us, because I think that we deserve all that richness. You know. I
agree. A good text by Toni Morrison is Bluest Eyes. If people aren't familiar with her work, it's a good place to start. So as we transition to the audience, I want the audience to start thinking about questions you might ask. One last question to you is, what would you say to encourage the group in terms of reaching for the stars and being the best that they can be? I really like one aspect that attracted me to your work was you reinvented yourself, or it was always there, but you weren't afraid to try something new and grow and grow and grow and grow and grow. So just what might you say in terms of parting words before we get into audience questions to the group, just to inspire people?
Well, I would say it wasn't completely without fear or trepidation. I mean, that's not true, because as soon as I felt like people might be watching, I was really scared. And I still am, you know. It's terrifying. I was handing in my last book. Oh gosh, because you know, like I said, with the first one, nobody's watching, right? And it's that whole sophomore thing. You know, everybody's watching, and that's really scary. But one thing that I had to remind myself, and I think this goes for everybody with everything, you have to think about if you've got something that drives you. Maybe you can remember this. What I had to ask myself when I was writing How High the Moon, when I was writing my last book, and I was looking at stuff, and I thought, this sucks, this is bad, I can't hand this in, or whatever. I had to remind myself that I had a choice. I could either do it, and it's not what I want it to be, it's not where I want it to be, or don't do it. So what are you gonna do, Karen? You're going to hand it in, and maybe it's not exactly what you want, or you're just not going to write anymore. Just forget it. Just not do it anymore. And that wasn't a choice. That was not an option for me. And that's what I have to remind myself. It's not an option if I know this is something that I want to do. I'm not going to be perfect. It's not going to be always what I want. But if the thing is in you that says, I want to do this, that's not there for nothing. Why is that there? It's there because you need to act on that. You need to make that happen. And it might be awful. It might be a mess. So what? Then do it again and do it better. It's that whole like Michael Jordan, you know? Yeah. Like how many times? I love that commercial where he just keeps failing. He just misses and misses. Did you ever see that commercial? He shoots and he misses and he misses and he misses. And the whole commercial is Michael Jordan missing. And it's great. Yeah, because we all have to remember that, right? Yeah. If you don't, then you're never going to have the success you want if you're never willing to get up there and just mess up constantly.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Let's give her a round of applause.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. What we'd like to do the next 15, 20 minutes, take audience questions. If you have a question, just form a line right here in the middle. If we can have a microphone up here? Thank you. Come ahead and stand up. Go ahead and stand up and start making your way here if you have a question. It'd be a lot more streamlined. Just come right out here and ask your questions. Don't ask nothing crazy though. Don't be like, can I borrow $1?
Can I borrow $1? Well, one person can ask that.
I like that. Introduce yourself. Say your name and go ask your question.
Oh, okay.
It works now? Great. Hi, my name's Jay. I'm a junior psychology major with a minor in Black Studies. So I'm like approaching the end of my college journey, and I think I'm kind of like worried about like what's next. My question for you is like, how have you dealt with like uncertainty or like anxiety regarding like what to do next?
That's a good question. Uncertainty about what to do next. I mean, for me, I feel like I said, I'm trying to be as clear with myself and follow what I feel driven to do. And I guess I have a lot of things that I feel driven to do. Like right now, in terms of projects, stories, I have things that I try to listen to what is really driving me and move toward it. And I hope you can do that and find that in yourself, and maybe find what it is that you love, and find a way to do it, to find yourself doing it. I think that's the most important thing. You're not just done. Like you now own that education. You know what I mean? You're not the same person you were when you went in. So try to be able to be that, give that to others.
Hi, everybody. I'm Eddie Minifield. I'm a management and finance major here, and I have minors in general business and honors. And as everybody in this room knows, African-American issues are largely overlooked, and that's what you write about in your books. And just like other people in this room, when I write my papers, especially for school, I like to write about those overlooked Black issues, school-to-prison pipeline, African-American maternal mortality rates, you name it, I love to write about it. Mm-hmm. And so I was wondering, for you, are there any pressing issues that you feel don't get enough spotlight, and what we as Black people, educators, writers can do to bring more of those issues to light so that we can fix those issues?
Well, I think what you're doing is exactly right. I think the things you're writing about, I still don't think enough, I don't think we hear enough about those subjects. I think, and all of these, I mean, I think the more we tell, and the stories that I'm telling, I mean, I think we just keep on with this stuff. We keep telling these stories. We keep talking about stuff. I'm always running into people who haven't heard about any of the stuff that I feel like I hear a lot because of the people I'm around, but it's not everywhere. It's not permeating everywhere. As far as the stories, like the stories of contributions and accomplishments that people have made, I think we need to keep pushing and getting those things out more and more, so that also our young people are coming up and growing up and knowing this thing as just normal stories about people that did things, because that changes the whole landscape for them of the world that they grow. It changes the whole landscape of race as they grow up and they see their value, what they're capable of in the world. If they just grow up and that's a normal thing, as opposed to every now and then, you know, some special Black person comes along and does a great thing, you know what I mean? Because that's just as bad. That's just a horrible thing for kids to grow up with. But if they grow up and they see themselves and people that look like them, and they hear about these accomplishments, that I think if we just keep telling these stories and you keep covering these issues, it just starts to become a thing that more and more people are aware of. And kids, people growing up young, like I said, I think it's really important for them to know this early. You're welcome. Thank you.
Hey, Ms. Parson.
Hey. Hi.
I love it.
Hi, my name is Reagan Savage.
Hi, Reagan.
I am a theater major with a minor in communications, and I love your work that you do. I love your books, and I love that you're taking your opportunity to like educate people, and I feel like it's very inspiring to someone like me who has my hands in a lot of pots.
Yeah.
Specifically acting, I hope to have an impact like you one day, and I just wanted to know, what advice can you give a young Black woman like me who's up and coming?
You just do your thing. You'll be fine. You're going to be fine. No, just do your thing. Learn. I mean, like anything else, study. Do your thing. Not just study. Study meaning like get out there, and in terms of acting, act wherever you can, whenever you can. You know, a friend. I'm going to drop a name again. You don't mind? Yeah, I mean, I'm name dropping.
I was just playing. Drop name.
That's okay, but I'm going to name drop anyway. Don Cheadle is a friend of mine. We did a Coca-Cola commercial together, like a long time ago, and met at a Coca-Cola commercial. But one thing I loved about Don and his friends, this is way back before people knew who Don was, back when we did the Coca-Cola commercial, before he was Ice Tray on Fresh Prince, if anybody remembers that. Yeah.
I remember.
Before that, Don and his friends they went to Cal Arts, and they were actors, and they loved acting, but they didn't have jobs as actors, so they would put on shows all the time. They would figure out a way to rent a space or bargain a space, and they would do Julius Caesar and invite people, and people would come see the show. Or they would write with other people and do sometimes a mixed media show. So they would do like plays, and then they'd have a screen with something else, and they'd do all kinds of stuff. But they were always doing stuff and working on themselves, and doing it because of the joy that they experienced doing it. They would just go and put it together and do it, and they just kept getting better and better. And Don he was always talented, but he just was getting better and better. I would highly recommend, if you can find people or go do plays or whatever, but keep yourself working your instrument and getting better as much as you can, so that when the opportunity comes for you in a job, you will shine because you have so much above everybody else. You know what I mean?
Thank you so
much. You're welcome. You're welcome. Good luck, girl.
It was awesome.
Thank you.
Hey, I'm Rich. I'm a fifth-year graphic design major. I was just wondering, was acting your first passion, or did you kind of have to, lane switch from something else?
No, it was the first thing.
First? So how does that feel, having your first passion come to fruition like that?
I was really fortunate. I mean, I was very, very lucky that I don't know if I had gone. I have friends who dropped out of acting along the way. And it always felt like, oh, I had more passion than they did about it. But the truth is, I was relatively young when I got The Fresh Prince, when I got that kind of, such a big job and such validation early. If it had taken a lot longer, it may have been a lot harder. I think it would have, I don't know what that would have done to me along the way. And who knows? But I know in my situation, I felt incredibly fortunate. And I'm grateful. I'm very grateful.
Thank you.
Thank you. Don't be. I won't. I won't, I promise. Oh, thank you. What's your name?
My name is...
Turn the mic on.
Thank you.
There you go.
My name is Jaimir Brown. I'm part of the Rocks community. I have a 3D design major with an 8 in finance, trying to get a major in animation as well.
Oh, okay.
My question for you is, you're a lot of things. You're an actor, you're an author. I'm pretty sure you're like a director or trying to be a director at this point.
I directed once. I don't know if I'll do it again.
You did a pretty good job. Don't say that. You did a really good job.
No, I directed. I directed a lot. I did a short film. I directed it, and I was like running. People were like, Karen, we need to know if I'm like, stop calling my name. Too many people calling my name. My husband's a director. He loves everybody calling his name. Me, I'm just like, no.
Okay. For my question for you is, you are a lot of things, but how do you just keep it all together? I'm trying to do a lot of things as well, but my question for you is, how are you so many things, but how do you just keep it all together?
Well, try motherhood, and then you'll learn all of that. No, I'm kidding. Right? No, I don't. It's coming. I think it is kind of true, but the motherhood part. But it is coming from joy. You know what I mean? I am following my joy. But I've acted. I have loved it until I didn't love it. You know what I mean? I've been loving it. I'm loving writing. I'm challenged by it. I have days that I would, joy might not be the first word to come, but ultimately I'm doing these things because I feel driven and I feel passionate about them. And so that keeps me going. I am around people that support me and love me and believe in me. That helps a lot. I highly recommend you have people around you that support you and see you and see what you desire. But that's how. I mean, I don't keep it together. I'm a mess. but I'm just trying to do my stuff as best I can and clean up after the kids and all that stuff. Thank you. Thank you.
Hey, Ms. Parsons.
Hi.
My name is Malachi Barnett. I'm a freshman here at NKU, and I'm a business major. And my question for you is, would you recommend just trying new things? Like if your major you pick doesn't work for you, should I consider being an actor? Because I know one of my uncles is an actor. I'm pretty sure you've heard of him, Joseph David Jones. He's in the 4400 and Green Arrow. Have you heard of him?
No, the name, I don't know for sure. The name sounds familiar. Does everybody know who you're talking about?
Green Arrow?
Yeah, he's Green Arrow.
Okay.
And like the last 2 seasons of Arrow.
Yeah, I know Green Arrow. But, I mean, I know of it. But are you asking because you think that
should I consider being an actor?
Do you like it?
I mean, I've never done it before, but maybe I should try.
Why are you thinking, if you're thinking of trying to do something different, why does your mind go to that?
Because I feel like my uncle, he kind of motivates me to be an actor, to not be afraid to try new things.
Well, you shouldn't be afraid to try new things.
Right.
That's a fact. If a part of you is thinking like, that sounds interesting to you, there are things about it that are attractive and you're kind of leaning into that, by all means, why not go take some acting classes and see how it feels?
Right.
That's safe ground, right? Go to some classes, play. I think all the time about going back to class because it's so much fun and it's so enriching and you learn a lot about yourself. So I would recommend just trying that. Don't decide you want to be an actor yet. Don't jump all the way in there. See if you like it. If it does anything for you. It might not. It might be something else. But I absolutely say try something different. If you are not satisfied, if you don't have any like real joy with your major, look at other stuff. Try other stuff. You're young. You got time.
You got time? Thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Good.
Hi.
Hi, my name is Natalie. I am a social studies secondary education major. Hi, Dr. Childs. I want to make sure that I have the most diverse and inclusive class possible once I start my teaching career. As a person that is a white person, I know that I will never have many of the same experiences my peers of color have had. So how do I go about making the most diverse classroom in order to enhance the experience of all my students?
Oh, that's a good question. Good question. You should ask him.
I've already done that.
Yeah. Ask him again. I can't answer that.
I'll start. Let's have this. You're already starting from a posture of humility.
Yeah.
I think any time we come with the posture of humility, what can I do better? You're going to find that path. The problem is when people come to the table with the mindset that they already know, and they won't tell black people what to do. They want to tell, men want to tell women what to do without really having a dialogue with those individuals about what they need. So you're already halfway there. But, from a practical standpoint, go on a fact-finding mission. That's what I call it. Go on a fact-finding mission to find out what works. Look at the population of students that you have and try to speak to their needs and try to learn from them instead of coming. The best part of the best teachers are humble. And they understand that we don't know everything. That's a misnomer that teachers know everything. People that are not education majors that don't understand. Is that Dr. Drury back there? Hey, buddy, how you doing? He caught my eye. But people that aren't in education, you may not know that teachers don't have to know everything, and our best bet is to learn and discover. So you started in the right place, and to make it very inclusive. Literature, get a classroom library, regardless of whether you're elementary, middle grades, or secondary. Read. There's a whole host of diverse books out there now. Yeah. I work with the National Social Studies Organization, and there's a whole crop of diverse books coming out now. My wife knows because they send them all to my house. I got like 100 books in my house. And there's so many books now that deal with diverse topics. So bring that into your classroom. Yeah. Go ahead, you jump in.
No, I think that everything he's saying sounds great.
Yeah. But I wasn't on the Fresh Prince, so I can only say so much.
Good question, though, and I agree with him. I really appreciate just your approach, just your concern. Right there, you're in the right place. You're starting from the right place.
That's one of my students. She's a rock star. I got a lot of my students are here, and I'm so proud of them. I'm proud of Jen Brown, too. Let's give Jen Brown a hand. She did logistics. She really supported us in getting you here and everything. I wanted to say that, so keep going. Sorry.
Hi, Ms. Parsons.
Hi.
Hi, Dr. Childs.
Hey, how you doing?
Well, everybody kind of took my question, so I guess I'm just saying hi at this point.
Oh.
But my name is Chrissy Payne. I am an alumni of NKU. I'm also a faculty member. I teach sociology as well. But I recently switched directions and got into acting also. I'm signed to a local talent agency. I've been taking classes at Audition Room 513. And I've more so been booking like industrials. Mm-hmm. So I'm really trying to break into like film and TV and also do some voiceover work as well. But I'm also a songwriter too. So I'm kind of juggling and have my hands full. I love writing. I love any opportunity that I can get to step into someone else's shoes and tell their story. So do you have any advice for me as I'm moving forward and just trying to, juggle everything that I'm doing that's specific to my journey? And
sounds like you're doing it, but I would just say make sure. I mean, I feel like if you can, are you in classes?
Yes, so I took Meisner 1 and 2 last year, so I'm looking to get into Meisner 3 as well.
Good.
And I'm also reading Truth by Susan Batson.
I don't know it.
Oh, she was Nicole Kidman's acting coach. It's a really good book.
Yeah, I've been kind of out of it for a while, so I don't know. But that's great. I mean, I think that's fantastic. Reading stuff, there's such as a lot of wonderful. Meisner's a great place to be.
Yeah.
So I remember I was going to take a Meisner class, and they were like, you can't audition for anything for 2 years. If you do the classes, part of the agreements, you don't audition at all for 2 years. Wow. And it makes sense, because they want you to really focus on your work, not be distracted by trying to get results by an audition, which is one of the things with auditions. You go into a room and you're trying to be approved of. Auditions are so artificial for that, and it's exactly the opposite of what you're trying to do, which is be real, right? So it's hard, and so this particular Meisner coach said, no auditioning for 2 years. And at the time I was like, 2 years, that's an eternity. How could I not? I need to be auditioning. So I didn't do it. I wish I had, because it makes sense. I'm not telling you not to. I'm just saying, when you're doing stuff, just try to read what you can. Do the Meisner stuff is great. And try to remember to keep it real, regardless of that dreaded audition room where you find yourself trying to please everybody and give them what you think they want, which is not. I've been on the other side of it too, and that's not what anybody wants. We just want you to come in and do your thing. So just keep on doing that. Just keep that, well-oiled and moving and learning and growing. So when the opportunities arise, you are ready. You're not just trying to get the opportunities. You're doing all the work behind it.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Good luck.
Thank you.
And so I want to make sure everybody has time to say something. We have a few minutes left. So no, it's not you. You're the guest. I'm going to ask everyone, just give the 30-second response. At least introduce yourself and just say it quickly so we can make sure everybody gets a chance to go. Thank you so much. Sorry about that.
Hi, I'm Anaria Powell. I'm a freshman journalism major with minors in English and Black Studies. I like to read a lot, which is why my minor is in English. And I know that a lot of times when we read like the classics, it's always, very white, cisgender, male point of view. So I feel like every Black woman who likes to read has like that first book or poem that makes you feel seen. What was that for you?
First book or poem that made me feel seen? My answer is kind of silly. It's not silly. The first thing that came to my mind was corduroy. I know it's not maybe the answer that you were thinking of, but it's the first thing that came to mind for me in that, because I was asked that a lot, like what childhood books affected me. And I remember I always would think corduroy, and I didn't know why. This little book about a bear what resonated so much for me, but I think what it was is that the little girl in the department store who brings him home is a little Black girl. And just a little girl at the store with her mom. Nothing tragic, nothing, anything. It's just a little girl at the store who loves that bear and brings him home. And I think it felt like me. And I felt like that was me. So it may not have been the exact answer you were looking for, but this kind of literature. But if I think of that answer, I'll let you know. But right now, I'll say corduroy.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Joshua Nelson.
Hi, Joshua.
Big fan.
Thank you.
My question for you is, what was that first day like on set of Fresh Prince? Yeah, it's a curveball, I know.
The thing that I remember being at the table read, I think. We were gathered at the table read. It was kind of the whole week, that whole first week, and the table read. Number one, of course, we're all excited because we got a job. We got this job. So everybody's really happy because we're all like, oh, we got a job, Who are you? Oh, I love you. You play my dad. You're my sister, great. We're all just like this. But it very quickly became a thing of a bunch of people who were just crazy about each other. That's the thing I think I remember the most, is that didn't die down at all. Like, we were kind of crazy about each other from that first week, and it never changed. We were so fortunate. It was a lot of fun, and it's like, I think it's like dancing or sports or music. When you're playing with somebody else and you click and you play well with each other, it's like it's amazing. It's like you're high. You're like, whoa, this is amazing. You're all just like, it's like a well-oiled machine all together, and that's how we acted with each other. I felt like I threw the ball, around the back, and then he caught it over here, and then he flung it at her, and she's like, boop. It was just, we were just going like that, and it was like that from the beginning. It was so much fun.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, give us the 30-second version.
That was me that needs to start. I'm still telling them. It's me that's talking too long.
I can't tell you that.
I know. I heard it, though. Hi.
I'm Yoshie. I'm a junior in high school, and I'm interested in creative writing. So I was just wondering what advice you would give to your younger self when you first started out with writing and stuff.
Okay, thank you. Advice for my younger self with creative writing, I would just say, read like crazy. Everything you can get your hands on. Read like crazy and write like crazy. Write all the time. And don't worry about it being good or bad. Somebody likened the first writing, I forgot who, to digging in the mud and taking mud and throwing it on the page, because it's like this ugly bleh. But that's your clay. You've excavated, your first words are kind of like that. It's your stuff you're going to work with. It's ugly and it's messy, but you got it. You got something on the page, right? You started somewhere. So now, good. That's okay. And give yourself permission to suck. Today I am going to write the worst stuff ever, and just do it. But then you just keep doing it and get used to doing it. That's the advice I would. Thank you. You're welcome.
Hello, hello.
Hi.
If you're open for pictures, can I be the first in line?
What is that?
If you're open for pictures, can I be the first in line?
Yes.
But I'm Maya. I'm a senior here at Northern. And I write poetry, and I've just kind of been struggling to find a producer or a publisher in order to get some books out, especially since I've never published anything. Yeah. So I was wondering what could be the best way to actually get a book out and actually find that publisher.
Well, have you looked into self-publishing?
Yes, ma'am.
Are you thinking about it?
Yes, ma'am.
I think that's something to think about. Do you know who Kwame Alexander is?
Yes, ma'am.
Kwame, so funny, I have become friends with Kwame Alexander, wonderful person, and I heard from some people that were close to him. They were saying, Kwame used to be that guy. You would hear him over here hawking his books out of the back of his trunk. He was selling them to everybody, and he just kept doing his stuff. Because Kwame believed in Kwame. And so he's like, I have a book. Want my book? Here, there's my book. I'm selling my books. And then he started to do more and more. And, it got to the point where, and the same with Jerry Craft. Do you know Jerry Craft? So I remember Jerry used to do, he wasn't doing stuff, I don't think, out of the back of his, he may have been doing it out of the back of his car. But I used to do, when I started Sweet Blackberry, I remember selling my DVDs at fair things, and Jerry would be there with his something boys, I forgot what they were called, his old stories, and we'd be there together doing our stuff. Years later, both of these guys with their Newbery Awards and all their stuff, they're but they started off really believing in themselves and just publishing their stuff and just Mama's Boys, that's what it was called. But they were just believed in their stuff, and they published their stuff, and they didn't stop, and they kept going. And they just kept putting themselves out there. And now they're, everyone else caught on. They got better because they kept working. So I think there's no harm in that.
Yes, ma'am. All right, thank you.
Yeah, good luck.
Hi. I'm Naya.
Hi, Naya.
I'm a senior psychology major. My question for you is, I do a lot of writing, research writing, and I tie in a lot of Black and brown perspectives into my writing, and I've dealt with a lot of backlash and a lot of no's and a lot of markdowns of trying to just throw. People say it's forcing my Black perspective onto them. So, yeah.
Oops.
I know.
How did I do that? I wrote. Sounds like a Black person wrote it.
Yes, but my question is, how do you deal with the backlash of trying to force our perspective out there because it's been ignored for so long?
Okay, we're not forcing our perspective. So I think that the thing is, if you are being honest, and I'm not saying people aren't going to give you a hard time, because idiots are going to give you a hard time, but I still think my thing that's the most important to me is the truth, right? If you're just telling the truth, you're not forcing anything on anybody. Don't force anything on anybody. Don't. Just tell the truth. Tell the truth from your perspective. Just tell the truth.
Awesome.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hello, I'm Jay Scott. I'm a history major here at NKU. And I was wondering, you know, I'm from Mount Sterling, which is where Nancy Green is from, and Jemima. And I've worked and stuff with my mom and uncovering her grave and doing different stuff. So who would you say is your favorite, you know, person in Black history that, you know, obviously you have a whole unsung hero, you know, a whole series, but who would you say is your favorite?
Oh my goodness. That's hard, but I will say one of my favorites. I'm not gonna say my favorite person, Bessie Coleman. And I actually, Sweet Blackberry, my organization, did both a film and we did an animated film and a book of Bessie Coleman. First, for people who don't know, she was the first Black female aviator, received her pilot's license before Amelia Earhart. But we're talking about in 1920 when aviation was so new and mysterious and terrifying to people, and the world was such it wasn't such a small place that it is now, and you couldn't just fly to Europe. She had to take a boat to Europe to be taught because no one in America would teach her how to fly. So she had to go to France where they would teach her, because she was a Black and Cherokee woman, how to fly. I admire her tremendously. I wrote her story, and I still have her picture on my desktop because when I look at her, she reminds me of what I am capable of. And to think that what she accomplished and her determination at that time to keep pushing and just do the stuff she did because she was so determined and persevered the way she did, I just look at that and I have to remind myself, you can do it, you know, Bessie. Thank you.
Hi,
Hello.
my name is Caitlin Minifield. I'm a senior integrated studies major with minors in Black Studies, History, and a focus area in environmental studies. My question for you is, when you began to tell these untold stories of Black Americans, did you ever get nervous or like anxious about like how people would perceive you, and did you ever have any doubt in yourself?
No, I didn't. I still don't, because I paused because I was thinking, well, the politics of the climate of the world, the politics were different at the time that I started. I mean, just in the last 5 years, things have gotten very heated and different and divisive and strange. So when I started, I think it was, you know, we were like screaming in the streets because Obama was elected, you know, and I had no voice. You know, it was like that was during that time. But even more recently when I've done stuff, no, I feel like I've found out information, I want to share it. These are stories that I, very naively thought were being lost. I mean, they are being lost, but I kind of thought they were just happened to be being lost, which I took, doing this for a while, I started to realize that no, indeed, stories are very consciously being buried. And I think it's important, like I said earlier, for all of us to benefit from, all people to benefit from, if we bring these stories out and we share them. They're an important, rich history for all young people. Obviously, I really want Black and brown children to see these. I don't know if anyone's seen the Dolly experiments. Anybody familiar with the Dolly experiments? Yes. The Clarks did these Dolly experiments, I think 1939, I think they first did them, where they would give Black children a black doll and a white doll, if you know what I'm talking about. And they would ask them, what's the good doll, what's the bad doll, what's the pretty doll, what's the ugly doll. And they've done these studies up until recent years.
Sure have. Yeah.
And time and time, every time, just time and time again, the majority of the responses from the black children are that the black doll is ugly, that the black doll is bad. And when they try to ask them why, they don't know why. But they're getting messages very, very early and very, very young. Kids are smart, kids are sponges, and they're picking up very early these messages. And so it's really important, obviously, for black and brown children, but I think it's important for all children to receive this history and to recognize, just like it's important for the black and brown children to recognize their value, it's important for white children to recognize their neighbor's value as well, and contributions that they live with, and see how much we all live together and how much we have together, and we have this history together. So I don't feel, I feel like what I'm doing is just for everybody. And anybody who has a problem with that has the problem.
Mm-hmm. That's right. I like that.
You know? Thank you.
Let's give Ms. Parsons one more round of applause. Standing ovation.
Oh, you guys are so sweet. Thank you. And thank you, David. This guy is incredible. Thank you so much. Can we have a round of applause for David Childs, please? Dr. David Childs. Yeah.
This is a historic moment. We're talking about history. This is a historic moment. And we want to just give you a token of our appreciation. If you could step right over here, Ms. Parsons. Just a little bit something to say thank you from the Black Studies, College of Education, History Department, all those African American student initiatives. College, I'm trying to think if who I forget. Black faculty and staff. We just wanted to say thank you for coming.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Right. Okay. Thank you so much. And you can
get off the stage.
Yep. Get off the stage now. Well, it was kind of awkward. She was just doing like this. I was like, I don't know what to say. I can't tell Ms. Parsons to get off the stage. There wasn't no other way to do it, say get off the stage. So you said it. So I just want to give y'all some homework and then we'll be done. Oh, let me, again, I want to thank the sponsors. I want to say that one more time. Bert Miller's back there, Chair of the History Department. Thank him. Amen. Amen. Mr. Moore, I said amen. I'm in the wrong setting. I said amen. You know, I'm in the wrong setting. Mr. Moore, Dean Fair, thank you so much. I know I'm going to forget somebody. Jen Brown. I do want to say, slow down and say Jen Brown is a logistical genius. She just helped us get just down to the details. Couldn't have did it without her. And all my students here, student helpers from Black and Brown Educators of Excellence, are you still here? Briaka, is Briaka here? She had to go. Stand up, come on, stand up. Any, yeah. All right. And who I forget? I think that's it. Okay, thank y'all. Thank everybody. If I forgot, y'all over there, stand up. Y'all was trying to hide. Stand up. Amen. Adam. Kalani. They helped out with registration and everything. So take something you learned back to your organization and implement it. I don't want us to come to a historic session like this and just it was a good talk, but the way that it is empowered is that you put it forward, you implement it into your world. Otherwise, it just will sit right here. But ideas need to grow and live in other places. And that's the point of this. That's the point of this. And this will be recorded, and so you can have access to the recording. And I want to thank those online, too. I keep forgetting you guys are out there. Come on, let's. Excellent. Also, do some community work, diversity work, inclusion work in your world. And take these ideas to your friends, family, coworkers, and email me and let me know what you've done. I want to get some emails. childsd1@nku.edu. childsd1@nku.edu. Please let me know what you're doing. And if you're on LinkedIn or Twitter, let me know how you can implement some of these ideas. We could even collaborate and work together on these kinds of things, okay? Am I forgetting anything? All right. Lift every voice and sing. I don't know all the words. Unto the heaven. Come on. Harmony of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. A song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of our new day begun. Let us march on to victory is won. All right. Oh, that's all, okay. Go home, go home.